Welcome back, guys, to Content, a podcast for local creatives. Thanks so much for being here. Super excited for the episode today with Kaya Winn. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This is round 2 because my camera wasn't working for the first 5 minutes. So this will be fun.
Glad we caught it though. Early on.
Caught it early on, and we'll just be playing a little bit of catch up to start the episode. I'm trying to think where we started just 5 minutes ago. I guess I shared how I met you initially, and I'll share it again because it's fun. So Kaya and I are both studying advertising at BYU. Mm-hmm. And we were recently admitted and just started our program. What was at the start of April, May, something like that. And we worked on a project together. Kind of the idea of the class is it was a strategy class. So for the 6 weeks that we were together, we worked on creating an ad campaign and strategy around a struggling product. And we ended up working together and worked on the Hostess Twinkie for a while.
A long time.
Yeah. Lots of hours and thought and dedication put into that. But honestly, so worth it.
Yeah.
It was such a blast presenting the last day.
Yeah, and just feeling very fulfilled at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that you could study the Twinkie as much as we did. I'm like, what else is there? And no, I felt very fulfilled at the end of it, just that we had found out so much.
Yeah, which advertising, I didn't see myself doing advertising. Mm-hmm. And I don't think many people really understand what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely different than even I thought it was.
But it is such a painful process to start from ground zero, go through the research, try and create super basic insights and convey all this information in a simple way to make interesting, creative ads that are going to actually make impact and touch people.
There's so much more thought behind it than just a single ad.
Because you see a silly Doritos ad or something.
Yeah.
You're they just threw that together. There's no strategy.
Totally.
But the more you get into the advertising world, you can break things down and be wait, I can see why they did this and who they're trying to target and why. And it's
that's
just
me every
such
time
an
I watch an
interesting
ad now. I'm okay, what was the strategy? What are they trying to target me? How did they kind of deconstruct it? So it's really fun, but it is a lot more thought and work than I thought it would be.
But then you get to the end and you're just
yes,
life is so good.
Yes.
It feels it's such a fulfilling thing to have broken something down and be able to present it in such a convey cool way.
This is the Twinkie.
Yes.
This is what the Twinkie means.
So kind of the story that I shared before my camera shut down was my first time meeting Kaya. There was about 25 people in this class. And at the beginning of the class, we were tasked, we had to go out. Our teacher had us walk around, talk to everyone in the class, and then we're going to choose our own groups on who we wanted to work with throughout the duration of this class. Mm-hmm. And the way the program is set up is there's 2 tracks, the creative and strategic track. I'm doing creative, Kaya's doing the strategic. And for whatever reason, there's just a lot more creatives in this class.
Yeah, by a lot.
Yeah, significantly. I think there was 1, maybe 2 creatives per group.
Yeah.
Of the 5 groups that there were.
3 other strategy.
Yeah. So just going into it, thinking about figuring out my group. I don't know anyone in the class. I'm I want to make sure I get a stud strategic kid on my team. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my thought process going around, and just talking to you, your social media background, I thought we'd work well together, and ended up working out pretty well, I think.
Yeah. No, and you the same with creative. Your ideas constantly from the beginning was amazing.
Thank you.
And just the way that we ended the project with the creative executions was great. At first when you tell me some, I'm but then you see it and I'm no, that's great. I love that. So yeah.
So that's always the hardest part of the creative is you see it in your mind. You're how do I convey this without just doing it? Anyway.
But no, it was so fun.
So super excited for this episode and just grateful, for you being here. And
yeah, of course.
I wanted to start just kind of getting to know you a little bit better, especially around your social media experience. Mm-hmm. What kind of was the beginning of your excitement around social media, would you say?
Yeah. So I never planned on doing social media or marketing or advertising. I think it really just not fell in my lap, but it was really like a natural progression, I guess. I was all growing up planned on being a teacher and went to my first year of school thinking I was going to be a teacher, then went on a church mission, and I served my mission during COVID. And so I was out for about 3 or 4 months before COVID hit. And then when it hit, we, were locked inside. We couldn't go knock doors or teach people, so the only resources we had was social media. And so pretty quickly they assigned different missionaries to be in charge of the social media during our mission, or like the social media work. And I got called to be a social media specialist for our mission, and started leading the efforts for that. And I loved it, and I had a blast, and I did it for about 9 months. And then I went home and didn't think anything of it anymore, really, and was just, started signing up for classes. I was going to be a teacher. And it just did not feel right. And like nothing was lining up or like working out. Like it just felt like a lot of resistance. And my mom was like, why don't you like sign up or like do that social media stuff that you did on your mission? I was like, as a job? Like what? Like I did not think of that. And so as soon as I started looking into that, like things just fell into place. And I don't think that's because of me or anything. I just think that when you're following like your passion and really what you're supposed to do, I just think things have a way of lining up the way that they're supposed to. So
yeah, 100%. I think it's like super interesting too, because like the church missionaries did not touch social media until COVID hit.
We had very strict rules before. Like I remember like on our phones, we had 2 gigabytes of data for each month before COVID. Like it was crazy. That's like crazy. If we wanted to use it at all, like internet, we had to go to the church to use the Wi-Fi, because it was like we could not use it. So yeah, it's crazy how much it's changed from that. And then we got Instagram too. Like it's just, it was a huge change.
That is crazy. So tell me a little bit about kind of what that experience was like kind of like the ups, the downs, lessons learned throughout your time working on social media on the mission.
Oh my goodness. So many challenges. I mean, a lot just people didn't care. Like a lot of it was like cold messaging. Like I just remember like messaging like, so we had different jobs for like people in our mission that we assigned, and some were like the people to message people, and I would hop on and try to help them. I just remember just like messaging like masses amount of people a day, like sending them things and just no one responding. And so a lot of days was like putting a lot of work into this and being like, is this ever going to pay off? Like no one's getting baptized. No one's even like responding or seeing my message, or they would just read it and never respond. So those were some of the challenges for sure. But then like the blessings, one of the biggest projects I worked on is we filmed a music video in the Sequoia National Park actually, which was actually so fun. So as our job, we kind of oversaw all the content that was being produced for the 6 Facebook pages we were over, and then an Instagram page.
Oh, wow.
And so missionaries would create content that they had approved by us, and then we would approve the final project. But then like the bigger projects we would execute. And so we had videographers assigned to us that like had cameras and things like that. And we went up to Sequoias and filmed this music video for Christmas. It was Silent Night, and we filmed it like under the stars late at night. Like it was so pretty. And that was just like one of my favorite projects I worked on, I think, because it was just so like, not that it was hard, but like it just felt very right. And like it just kept like things kept unfolding. And when there was like a challenge, we would push through and we were able to overcome it. And again, I don't think it was that we were special or anything. I just think that like that's what happens when you're doing like, again, what you're passionate about, and then like something for someone else too. Like we were doing this for like a purpose to like help other people. And I think that's where like a lot of the like, I don't want to say magic, but kind of comes from, is like having that purpose, whether that's helping people or not, but like we had this set purpose. And so things just like unfolded. So that was something I really enjoyed working on. And then just like regular Instagram posts that we posted like every day, and like responding to comments and posting things. So we had ads. So we like would work on ads that we were targeting different groups of people for like free scriptures and free like prayer groups and things like that. So it was great. And a lot of like different trainings that we would lead our mission in with like teaching missionaries how to use Facebook and Instagram because they had no idea how to do it. And they were really, that was another hard thing, was they were all very resistant to it.
Really?
Mostly resistant, I would say. They did not want to use social media. And so that was one of the hardest things, was like hopping on calls with people and like having to like tell them how great it is when I haven't seen like a ton of success myself yet, but like trusting the process. And so that was, it was super interesting, but I'm super grateful for the experience. So
yeah, and such a unique experience.
Totally. Yeah, and it's just changed like the trajectory of my life. So
that's so cool. So you have that time on the mission, social media experience, you come home, you think you're gonna be a teacher. At what point do you pivot and kind of go back into the social media space?
Pretty immediately, I would say.
Really?
Like I came home in April of 2021, and within a couple weeks I had decided to do social media and started looking into what that would entail for career and education and things like that.
And like, what did that look like? Like, was it a change in major? Were you starting to reach out to people? Like, what steps did you take to kind of pursue that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I was undeclared before, so I hadn't declared elementary education yet. That was just kind of what I was planning on doing. So right away, I was working just at this local family business in my hometown. I'm from Texas, so just like a little small town. I was just like working as their like front desk person. And so I just like offered to help them do their social media because I was going to be there for the summer until I moved up to Provo. And so that summer I just like did their social media, and it wasn't huge, but like it was still like reminding me how much I enjoyed it. And I think it helped keep the momentum. And so then after that, I started looking into like different like programs for school for social media and like marketing and things like that. But that was like the first like job that I had.
That's cool. And I saw you worked for like several different kind of brands and represented them through your social media management.
Yeah.
So like, what exactly did those jobs entail? Like, was it pretty similar, like across the board for all of them? Was it different, or like what were you doing for each of those individual brands?
Okay. Yeah. No, all of them were very different. So, I worked for a local jewelry company that isn't around anymore, but it was called Riley Royce, and I was their social media manager. And that was a really interesting job because I loved it. It was probably one of my most favorite jobs, and like I still miss it, just like the people I worked with, but then it just gave me so much experience.
That's awesome.
And I honestly feel like with this field, like you don't always need, or dare I say, like you don't need a degree.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think experience is like the biggest thing it has taught me. And like I'm so grateful for my education. Like I love everything I'm learning in the advertising program at BYU. But like the experience at this job particularly is, I feel like, what has like shaped like everything for me in social media. So I was a social media manager. It was a pretty small company, like employees wise. So started by this couple who had lost their son in an accident, and so they created the jewelry company in honor of him. And they were pretty hands-on in the beginning of the company, but then he went on and like started another company with his brother, which was hard at moments, but like it gave me so much creative strategy, like control. Like really I was over the whole marketing team, which was like
awesome.
In the beginning was like overwhelming, like literally like could do anything I wanted to. But we were able to do some really cool campaigns, and it gave me so much experience because I was doing so many different things. So like email text marketing, I started like the influencer program, like oversaw a whole campaign where we like, with my graphic designer, we like designed like stamps for jewelry. They were cool. Mickey Mouses, actually. We did like a Disney collection.
That's sweet.
And so she like drew them. We drew like different iterations and stuff. And then we like found a person to like make them into stamps, and then like custom made them with our team of like the girls that would make the jewelry, and then like shot the whole campaign. We had someone go to Disneyland and like take pictures of it at Disney, like got models and photographer, and like just executed the whole campaign, and then like figured out, okay, like how are we gonna like promote this to do well? And that's when we launched our influencer program, because I was like, who else is better to promote Disney than like Disney adults?
Yeah.
So like there's a whole community of Disney influencers. Did not know that.
That's so sweet.
So we sent them to them, and we had our biggest launch to date that day with sales of necklaces. And so I loved that. Like, I think it gave me a lot of experience working with like influencers, but just doing a lot of different things, like overseeing a team, but then also like daily content management, but then also like seeing the long view, like, okay, like what are we going to do for these holidays? What are we going to do for Black Friday? And like sales. And I even worked on like Shopify, like how to change the website and so much of like the back end stuff that, again, like you were saying earlier, that you just don't think about when you see an Instagram post. And so now I'm always so aware of like what brands are putting out, because I'm like, if they're putting that out, it has to be important, because it's just, there's so much more thought behind it. And that's what I really learned with that company. And then the other two, I worked for Dime Beauty, which is just a skincare company in Draper, and I did a lot of like content things for them. So I was a social media coordinator, but a lot of that was like growing the TikTok. So just like creating a ton of TikToks every day to post. We posted like 3 to 4 a day, which was
that's crazy.
Insane. So yeah, just so, which is like hard.
It's like impossible. Like the hardest thing for that, I feel like, is ideating like what you're even going to post.
Well, I think long term that it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I think that like it's different if like you're like an influencer or like you are the brand.
Yeah.
Which, because people really are turning away from like brands these days. People want people's faces, and that's why like brands are that's what I've at least seen with my social media work, is that people are wanting like a face of the brand. And so it was like so hard to just be doing like products every day every day. Like I'd go to Home Depot and get these like grand like countertops that you can like buy in just like small slabs, and just like film skincare videos over and over. And it's like how much more like trendy sounds when you do. So it definitely taught me a lot, but I just think that going forward with brands, I think it's really important to have like a strong face of the brand, whoever that is. And the last one was for the church news. So I just did over last summer, I was an intern for them. And so just like any of the stories that would come out, I would turn those stories into a social media post or a reel, or like post the podcast. So, and that was great too. That was totally different than what I've been doing, but
that's awesome. There's a couple of thoughts I have from what you just shared. First of all is like, I totally agree that like hands-on work is like king.
Yes.
Like
put that on a t-shirt.
I feel like that's something that I've learned as like I've embarked on my own creative journey, is like I've always just wanted a mentor. And what I've determined, at least through my experience, is like, don't wait for a mentor, become the mentor.
That's so good.
Like you have to go out and like teach yourself stuff, learn stuff on the fly, and put yourself in a situation that like you have to learn stuff yourself. Like the podcast has been great for that for me, where like from A to Z, I'm doing everything. I know it inside and out.
You're able to be creative every day.
And like it's such a good outlet for me, and like it's helped me to just learn stuff, because like you said, I'm creative every day, and I'm trying out new stuff every time I'm making something or posting something.
You see what works, what doesn't, and it's like
and I feel like that's, you know, across the board, especially in like social media and advertising, but honestly I feel like it applies to pretty much anything in life. Is like you can't really just sit back and like wait for the right person to come to tell you what to do.
Totally.
And that's been such like empowering thing to like know. Is like, I'm not going to sit back and wait anymore. Like, not to say there haven't been just incredible people that like have been put in my life that have taught me such amazing things that I've like needed to learn. But to be fair, like a lot of those people that I have met have been as a result of me going out and making the best effort to like network and meet people and doing my own thing. So I think that's like huge, just like you mentioned, in like this space, to like not wait for a mentor, just get started now.
I totally agree.
Make mistakes early on.
Like it's good. Like I think that that's something that maybe prohibited me a little bit in the beginning, was I just wanted everything to be perfect. And I think that like there's no perfection with social media, because it's ever changing. And with marketing in general. So I just, that would be my biggest advice, would be to go out there and like try and like get get a job if you can, like, and you're gonna have to start low. Like, I started out low, like not very high, like not paid well, not like a glamorous job at all. But just start, because like that's how you get momentum and keep moving, and then that's how you meet other people who can give you more resources. And you know, I just think that like taking every day to like learn what you can, whether that's like, there's so many great podcasts and like YouTube videos and like people on social media that you can follow to learn from. So like, just don't be passive like with your learning, I would say, because again, like experience is the biggest teacher, I think.
100%.
So go get it.
And I feel like I've shared this on previous episodes, or I am just always sharing with friends and people that I'm talking to, but like, I just like am a strong believer that everyone, regardless of the discipline that it is, has like a side hustle.
Oh, totally.
Like, you can like develop and like be passionate about and work on, that has the potential to be your main hustle.
Yeah.
And like, obviously we both share that same thought with your like Winn Consulting and me with the podcast. Like, I don't know, it's just been like the most fun thing for me, and like it's something that I wish everyone did, and it was like just had that outlet to just have fun.
I think fear holds people
Yeah.
back a ton. I know that's something that has held me back. And I think I've always been kind of like entrepreneurial. I think I get that from like my parents. They just have always like encouraged us to just like do whatever. Like in high school, I started so many different businesses that failed and never amounted to anything. My sister too.
Yeah.
But I think fear really holds people back, because I know that's held me back from pursuing like the things I wanted to. Just fear of like what people will think. And I think that that has held me back from a long time. I think that you just like can't let that happen. I think that you have to decide what you want to do. And that doesn't have to be something that you're posting on social media about. That can be literally whatever you want it to be. But I think that there's already so many challenges to like starting a side hustle or a business. Don't let fear be one of them. Because like, so what? And like, so what if you fail? Like, you can say you tried and no one else, like they didn't. The people that are criticizing you, they didn't even try. So 100%. It's like, and all my failures have led to where I am now and given me experience. Like, I'm able to be like, okay, when I started that photography business, that was like pointless because like I don't know how to use a camera. That gave me so much experience for like, you know, this or that. And so I just like go for it, I think. Yeah,
I definitely agree. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about influencers.
Okay.
I feel like, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, the general public doesn't have a great view on influencers. They're like, oh, these are people that just like make these stupid videos all day. They're like cringy.
Yeah.
And like, that was definitely like my view of influencers.
That's what I was going to ask first. What is your view?
So like, I just recently started working at 3 Second Media, which is a short form media agency. And I've started working with influencers and kind of learning more about them, understanding, you know, why they exist, why they're important, why they're motivated to do what they do. And it's definitely given me an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
And I just want to like continually be learning more about them. I'm trying to think like what exactly my question is, but like in your eyes, like, what is an influencer? Why are they important? Like, what role do they play? Especially with your experience working with them.
Sure. Yeah. I think I've always been someone who's really liked influencers. Okay. I think that like maybe that's why this is a good profession that I got into, because I'm easily influenced. Like if someone posts something like super cute on Instagram, like an outfit, I'm like, oh, that's so cute on them. Like, I'm going to buy it. But I mean, there's always like a few that you're like, oh, that's so cringy, or like, I can't believe they're doing that, or like wannabe influencers. And I think that like everyone's definition of an influencer is definitely subjective. But I think that like, as I've worked with a lot of influencers in the past and like met, like I know some that have really big platforms. And I think when you get to know them, you realize that they're like just real people and that what they're showing is like such a tiny part of their life. And that has like made me love them more. And like, I think that social media is going through this really interesting phase right now, and maybe it's been happening for a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed, but like it just seems like people are posting a lot more like real content, like not perfect. And I think that's like with influencers too. Like I feel like people are liking them more because it doesn't seem so like staged, like perfect. Like I remember like I mean, maybe this has been since I was in high school, but like influencers is like a staged production, like super staged cameras, and then it was like hashtag ad, and you're like, oh, like whatever. But I feel like now it's like more subtle. I will say I feel like influencers are the way for brands to grow. 100%. I think that is how I've seen brands I've worked with grow the most and get the most like sales or engagement or whatever their goal is. And then brands that I've just observed on social media, the brands that have grown the most is because I'm influencers. I mean, think of like a brand that like Armra Colostrum. Have you seen ads for that?
I haven't, no.
Okay, well, it is all over my feed right now.
Really?
Like every single post almost is influencers talking about this like new health product, and their brand has grown like so much, and it's because of these influencers. And they get influencers from all different lifestyles to post like on the same day, like strategically, because then your entire feed is
the same thing,
which like I think it's been said that like you have to see something like 7 different times or something like that to like want to buy it. And I think that's like where they're, you know, the little tactic that they have right now. But really, like I think that it is like the biggest way to grow is influencers. Does that answer your question? What else?
100%. I feel like that definitely was my biggest like qualm with influencers, is like this doesn't feel genuine. It feels like some kind of setup to get me to spend money. Like,
well, and there's some that are like that. I think you just have to choose who you follow wisely, like you would with anything else.
I totally agree, and I have seen a lot more of just like more organic looking ads for products coming out that kind of fit the right niche and feel right. And like, I don't know, there's like 2 different ways I look at it. There's like influencer or creative that I like their work, I like them as a person, you know, whatever it is, and they come out with a product and I see buying the product as helping them, like
that's
supporting
true.
them because I want to support them,
like not necessarily
and like
for you.
Maybe the product does like work for me and like I like it, but like the emotional driver is like I respect them as a creator, as a person, and if they're getting paid for this ad, it's going to help them.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
That's kind of how it works for me, as like opposed to I see an ad of an influencer that feels inorganic with a product that doesn't fit their niche, and it feels like a straight business setup to just like get people to spend money. And there's no emotional attachment, and it doesn't feel genuine. It
feels very out of place.
And I feel like most influencers, that's how it felt until semi-recently. And that's kind of where, and maybe this is just my perspective, it's not others, but that's kind of where there was the disconnect where I was like, why do these guys even do what they're doing?
No, I would agree. I would totally agree. I mean, there's huge money in influencing. Like, I saw something somewhere, and don't quote me on this, but that like they get their paycheck is like 10% of their followers or something. So if you have like 1 million followers. But I think that the reason that influencers are so successful, like with working with brands, is because kind of like I was saying earlier, people feel really disconnected from brands. A lot of the times, I mean, we talked about this in our advertising class, that like people were connected to like brands like Twinkies and stuff like that because that's kind of how the way of the world was like back then when they first came out. But like now there's so many new brands emerging that people don't really get like nostalgic to a brand. Like if there's like one brand of shoes and another, and like one's cheaper and I like them better, like I'm gonna go with them even if I had bought from the other brand in the past. And so like brands don't have that like loyalty that they used to, but influencers do. They have these people that they've built a relationship with. They take them along their family vacations with their kids, their struggles, just anything they're going through, and like their health journey, like things like that. And so then these brands have this really unique opportunity of coming in and like implanting kind of their product in their life, like how they use this on vacation or how they use this with their health journey, like losing weight or whatever it is. And it's because they're ingraining it, like it's just a part of their like normal daily life. And I think that influencers are getting better at not just like accepting any product
Yeah.
because like they are being bombarded with like so many emails a day for the most random companies
Yeah.
you could think of. And like the paycheck's worth it. Like they pay influencer marketing is one of the biggest payouts when it comes to marketing. Like the marketing budget's one of the biggest is for influencers. And so it would be easy just to like take that money. But I think influencers are getting better at only working with brands that they've either like used the product before or like it genuinely aligns with them. And I think that consumers can like sense that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to give you like, I don't know if case study is the right word, but just like, this is more for me.
Okay.
Have you ever seen like influencers promote like a podcast? Like if I were to say, this is my podcast, it's kind of smaller, I want to grow it. Do you feel like there is a route to like use influencers to help the following of it?
So like not their own podcast, but someone else's. Like if you were gonna have an
like
influencer,
if we were gonna
shout
take
you
this
out.
podcast, how would we go about using influencers? Or is that even?
Yeah, no, I've seen two different ways, and it's different than with like products and things like that. One that I've seen, I mean, I get podcast recommendations from influencers all the time. Like I have tons of screenshots on my phone. Like one that I see often is like on their morning walk, they'll take a picture of their walk and then like insert like a picture, because you know you can do like two pictures like layered now. Like insert a picture of that podcast that they like listened to.
Oh, cool.
So something like that, like maybe, I don't know, just an idea, like reaching out to them and like telling them about the podcast or something like that. But then also another one I've seen, I follow this one podcast called The Weekly Trash, and she does like influencers but like nobody's too, like anybody.
Yeah.
And I've seen, like I found out about so many influencers I didn't know about because she has them on her podcast, and then like they share that onto their platform.
Gotcha.
And so then people find out. So it really is a win-win, because then the podcast, which was really small, grows because they're getting all these influencer followers coming in, and then people know about this influencer. So like having them on your podcast, like even if you found like a micro influencer and then like just keep working, I think that's where I've seen. And then you'll have like the podcasts that like really like resonate with people, and I've seen like a lot of influencers share like the same. I feel like most podcasts have like an episode that just resonates with like tons of people, like not just like one or two, but like a ton. And I've seen some influencers, like it just seems like all of them are sharing like the same podcast on one day. So that's how I've seen that, but not as much as like paid partnerships when it comes to a podcast. But like that could change.
No, 100%. I just thought it'd be interesting to ask. I was curious.
Yeah.
Kind of to shift the conversation a little bit. So you worked as a social media manager, you created content, all these different brands. And then you kind of made a shift to more freelance work. What was the decision-making process for that change?
Yeah. At first, it was honestly just like the time commitment. You know, I just was like in full-time school. And so I was like, I can't commit to like a 9 to 5 or like, you know, like a 40-hour weeks like I was doing. And so I was like, you know what, like while I'm in school, I'll just like do some freelance work on the side. And I'm not opposed to like a traditional marketing job anymore. Like I have a list of like companies I'd love to work for. But I do love the freedom that freelance gives me, kind of similar to that first job, or I guess it wasn't first, but one of the first jobs I had at the jewelry company is that freedom that I had there. I really enjoy that. And I love working on multiple different projects, like different brands. And I think that's like a really cool perspective. And then you also get to know like the client like really well. And I feel like that was something that was missing for me. So it was really kind of like an accident on first, but I just think that also like it's just kind of the way the world is going is like more remote work. And like I think that it's like so cool that we have that freedom and like that flexibility to be able to travel if I want. And there's like also no cap on like how much you can grow. Yeah. Like you're your own limit, you know? And so I think that's really cool. And I just think that like it's going to be a great job to have, you know, in college, but then like when I graduate and continue to like grow, but then also like if I have kids, like it's very sustainable. So
yeah, I think that's interesting that like you enjoy working with so many different brands at once, because like that's what I'm doing right now. I love it. It's awesome. It's also a little bit overwhelming. Yeah, because like to create and execute a strategy in the social media environment that's consistently changing
Totally.
takes a lot of brain power to just like always be thinking about 6 different things that you're taking in 6 different directions.
Yes.
Is always, it's a mad dash to just kind of always be improving on multiple different
for sure
brands.
I think that like it helps with like burnout though as well, because I think that sometimes you can get burnout on a brand. Not that you're like over them, but just like run out of ideas. And I think that sometimes when you're looking at like both or like different brands, then you kind of can get an idea for another one is what I found. So
like, how are you finding most of your clients? Like, are you reaching out to people? Do you feel like people are coming to you, or what is that process like?
Honestly, I should do a better job. And one of my goals is to like market myself better and like reach out. I haven't done like any cold reach outs right now. Right now, it's just been like referrals, like friends of friends. Like,
that's awesome.
And that's another great thing that you were talking about, like getting like mentors and things like that. Like once you're in the industry, like doors open up for you, because like I have one potential call tomorrow. That's because like one of my old coworkers that I worked with doing marketing like referred me. So, and then like another one was just a friend of a friend that like told her I did social media. So I think that just like word of mouth is honestly been the best for me. That doesn't mean that's the best way. Like I want to in the future get better at like marketing myself. But I think also like what you're saying, it is hard to do multiple at once, also like while you're in school. So I'm like, you have to like, you know what you can do at one time. But so
something that my boss does that I think is just genius is he has a client referral program.
Cool.
Where he incentivizes employees and clients to refer people.
That's really cool.
So for example, like if I find someone that ends up signing in working with the company, I get 10% of the money that is coming in for the first, I forget, maybe month. And then 5% as long as they stay, whether I'm working with the company or not. Because that's the highest type of client that I feel like you can get, is someone that you have worked with 100%. That likes working with you.
Because you have that relationship.
And they have that relationship too, where they can trust their friend instead of going into it blindly with someone that they don't know, and they can kind of like talk to them about it. So that might be something that you want to try. Moving
that's
forward.
A great idea. I love that.
And your business offers, I wrote it down somewhere, variety of services. So like consulting, brand audits, management, strategy. Do you feel like people, like there's one that people are mostly coming for, a variety, or like what do you normally see people are looking for?
Honestly, like full social media management typically. Really? People typically, the audience I've been working with so far don't know very much about social media or don't want to, like hands off, like I don't want to do it. And so typically it's like more full service rather than like I haven't done a ton, but like will do like an audit or like a call, just like a call. Like if someone wanted to run their social media on their own, I'd be happy to like teach them how to do that. Like that is something I really want to look into in the future, like teaching classes or something like that to like give people like the skills so they don't have to like go to a school to like learn that, but just like a short, like little tutorial for like a business owner that is just going to run their own business. Like they don't need to go to school for that, know? But most of it has been like full management services.
Gotcha.
So,
including like content creation.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And it really depends on like the brand, like how much they want or like what they are needing. Yeah.
And if you're comfortable talking about it, how did you come up with like pricing for that?
Oh my gosh, it is so hard. It is so hard. I like just actually restructured this, and honestly, like I had no idea like what was like a good number. I'm like, $20, like I don't know. And I just like researched a ton, like what are good prices for like experience and stuff like that. And honestly, like I'm just starting to like implement that. In the past, what I have been doing is just like asking like, what are you comfortable with? Like, what do you want? And like right now, some of them is like hourly, which like I think there's pros and cons. Like I think most people would advertise not to do that, to do like a flat fee per like project or per month or whatever. I I don't mind it just because it's like if I work a certain amount, because it is freelance. Like I think if it was like my full-time job, it would be hard. But because it's like, you know, whenever I have time, it's like however many hours I work, like I know I'm going to get more if I do more work kind of a thing. It's really hard though. I think that like, I don't know if you've talked to other creatives, but I think that that's probably like,
it's so tricky for anyone.
Yeah. In any field is like, how much do you charge? Because it's very relative. Like if someone was coming in, they'd be like, that's so much money for you're just going to post, like, especially someone who doesn't know social media and doesn't know the strategy behind it. They're like, that much for
and how intensive content creation is, like,
and they're like, you're just going to post a picture, like especially with the older generation. That is hard. So it is something that I think is constantly like changing and pivoting, and I'm probably not the best one to ask because I feel like I fall more into the camp of like whatever you're comfortable with, which is probably not the best thing to do.
No, it definitely is something super tricky. And I don't know, I've talked to like wedding videographers and they all have like I've had 2 on the podcast, and they even have different ways of going about how they sell their services. Like kind of the more standard model for wedding videography is just like packages. But the one that I had on just recently, Katie Quinn, she is just like so invested and passionate about the process where like she refuses to do anything short of the full deal. So like you either book her in everything or you don't.
That's actually really cool.
So I think it's really interesting.
It's definitely, it's hard.
This might be like a little bit of a loaded question, but what are some like key strategies that you like to implement or teach the people that you're working with?
Oh, that
in
is
social media.
That is such a good question. Okay. Like my clients that I work with, or like people in this field,
or just like personal philosophy, just like in terms of like strategy, what are like pillar things for you that like help grow your social media presence?
There's so many. The first that come to mind is just like really knowing your brand. I think that like when you know your brand, and I don't even know if I would count that as a strategy, but I kind of feel like it is. I think that just like knowing your brand inside and out, and like not just from your perspective, but from like the consumer's perspective. Like how are they seeing like your brand? How do they perceive this like every day? And so like I think that like a strategy, like talk to people. Like we did that a lot with Twinkies, was like surveys and like things like that. Like I want to know like at the end of the, like Twinkies, I like knew the public perception of Twinkies, you know? And so I think the same thing has to be for your brand. And like, I don't know if people maybe get like afraid to like know the truth or like what they're thinking of people, or their brand. But I just think that's so important, is like, you know, your brand inside and out. And then from there, I feel like everything else falls into place, because if you know your brand so well, whether you're an influencer, whether you're a company selling something, then you know what they want. And so then you can decide how you're going to market that. You can like come up with different content pillars. Like I always tell my social media clients to come up with like 3 to 5 like social media like content pillars. Like one's like family, like education, and like beauty, something like that. And like all your content is in those 3 pillars, and that's it. We're not doing 100 million things. I think that's where people sometimes like get lost in the weeds. Like focus on what's most important and stick to that. So really get to know your brand, and everything else stems from that, I think. Cool.
That's good advice. Believe it or not, we're starting to near the end of the podcast.
It goes by really fast.
It
like
always
you said,
flies.
You said that, and I didn't know if I believed you.
No, it happens every time. They're like 45 minutes, and we get to the end, they're like, that's been 45 minutes. I'm hoping to get to the point where like I don't have to edit it myself, and I can have like 2-hour episodes where I'm not like
that would be amazing.
Dying when I'm putting stuff together. But kind of what I like to do to end every single episode is I give the person being interviewed the freedom to kind of choose what note we end the podcast on.
Okay.
Which is sometimes difficult. It's super open-ended, but whether that's something that, you know, you wanted to share today and didn't, or you had the thought of and then didn't end up sharing it, or I'll just kind of let you choose kind of some final thoughts to kind of end the podcast today.
Okay. The first thing I think that came to mind was, I think that I always had this like perception of myself, or like thought like, oh, I'm not good at anything, or like I don't have a hobby, or like maybe that's super morbid to be sharing, but like just like I felt like everyone had like their thing, and I didn't feel like I had one until I started doing social media marketing. And that might sound silly to have like my thing be my career.
Yeah.
But I do feel like my message would just be that like everyone has their thing. And I don't care who you are. And like it might take a little bit longer. And like maybe you haven't gone through like the life experience yet to discover what your thing is. Like for me, it was my mission, going on my mission. A huge part of that was like to discover this, my major, my career, like it would change my life, you know? And so I think that like, it's just so good to like surround yourself in like new experiences and new people, like just start like going after like the things that you like to do for fun. And I think along the way you'll find like your thing, and everyone has it, like, you know, like yours is be like being creative. I mean, don't want to put you in a box. Like, everyone has lots of things. You can have more than one.
Yeah.
But like, do you understand what I mean?
100%.
Like, I just think that don't like limit yourself, and don't sell yourself short. Because I think that we see people be creative all the time, and or doing whatever it is, and you're like, oh my gosh, like they're so talented, like I suck.
Yeah.
But like, I just think that like as you devote time to it, whatever it is, like you'll discover that like everyone has something special. And I believe that like that you were given that for a purpose. It's like what I personally believe, and that whether that's for like serving people, like there's some way that you can help people through like whatever your thing is. And I don't even know totally like what that is for me, whether that's like mentoring, or like I would love to somehow like learn how to give back in some way through this. But I just think that like you have to go after your thing. Like I think it's like a responsibility that we are given like in this life, is to like find out what our talents are, and you know, develop them the best that we can. So
100%. I completely resonate with that. And I feel like it's like hard for me to be empathetic, just because it's hard for me to understand why someone wouldn't share this view that I have. But like, shoot, where was I going with that?
It sounded really good.
Oh, it was kind of profoundish. Let me try and
okay, you got. I'll be quiet.
Because you just shared. Oh, right. I, by nature, love creative problem solving. Like, I just love it. I love there being a challenge in thinking through it, in finding a solution. And like, I just have the strongest belief that like anything can be solved with enough thought and time and effort. And like, there's people that just like hate their job, or like would have the biggest dream to just like do something with their passion, and just like don't make that jump. And I just am the biggest believer that like anything can happen. Like it's so doable. You just have to put one step forward, one step in front of the other, and you can bring dreams to fruition with enough time and effort.
Totally. And don't make excuses, because I think
excuses.
that's like, I don't have time. I'm like, well, let it be your side hustle for a little bit. Like I think that's a limiting belief I had. It's like it has to be a full-fledged marketing agency before you start. Like no, like start with one client. Yeah, like that's great.
100%. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Kai, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This has been super fun, and good luck with your business and advertising. And let me know if I can ever be of any help.
Thank you.